Hey everyone, welcome to the M&R Show. I'm Ron.
And I'm Malcolm.
And today we have a special guest. I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Isaiah Kitt of the Isaiah Kitt podcast. Thank you guys for, letting me come on once again. Greatly appreciate it.
Hey,
Yes,
man,
sir.
always appreciate you coming on. I love to make sure we say stuff, give it agreement so we understand what we got going on. Because, people like to, never mind, I don't want to talk on that. We don't need to talk
Hey.
Okay.
Nah, all right, though.
But now, last week we talked about quarterbacks. So now this is M&R Show draft season. And this is Malc's top 5 running back list. I told y'all about this last week.
Very controversial list.
To be honest, right? Now, first we're gonna start off with number 5, and that's Jared Patterson from Buffalo. Now, everybody understands they've seen what Jared Patterson can do, especially with that big game that he had earlier in the season with 400 yards. Now, this guy, he has great vision and like a zone or a gap scheme, and he has like great footwork. This guy can be very good in a very zone scheme, i.e., looking at guys as in Kyle Shanahan, or look at New York Jets and seeing what Matt LaFleur's brother, who's running there too, who came from San Francisco and knows how to offense. So those can be good pickups for Jared Patterson. I think the only thing that we have to worry about Jared Patterson is his competition, because the level of competition that he played was just a little questionable. But at the end of the day, you're talking about a guy who can run between the tackles, who's a very powerful runner, who can be able to. You didn't see a lot of times that he was catching out the backfield, but let's just understand that if you look at his tape, you understand that he has a skill set to be able to be a viable receiver out that backfield, which makes him a lot more valuable than other running backs that I've seen before.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Zay.
Okay, yeah. Jared Patterson, I think Malcolm, you hit it right on the point, on the head. He is now he played in the MAC conference, and some cupcakes there, so his sugar levels might be a little high. But I think this guy, he's a powerful back. According to PFF, more than half of his yards came after contact. So this guy is he's a human-sized pinball. He just rubs off defenders. I like the downhill aggressiveness that he brings. I don't know if he's as big, but kind of remind me a little bit of Alfred Morris, a little bit, where he's just a naturally strong powerful runner of the football. Not really the shiftiest guy, not really got the most twitch, but a really strong, powerful back who could possibly be a 3-down back for a team. And you mentioned the systems that he would fit well under. Alfred Morris. He had his biggest years were his first couple years in Washington. Once again under Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, and Sean McVay. That whole zone running, that whole zone read option, zone read running scheme that they had in Washington. I can see a little bit of that with Jared Patterson. Big guy, powerful runner, and can bounce off of tackles.
Yeah, well, you all took every word I had to say about the guy. I mean, dang, but it's not just playing. But nah, my comp, actually, that was Alfred Morris was very sneaky. Didn't even think about that. That was actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. If Alfred Morris was like a first or second round pick type running back, this is how he would look. But my comp is Arian Foster. I know we all remember Arian Foster and the Houston Texans. They are both one-cut zone running backs. We saw Arian Foster lead the league in rushing before. This guy has that type of potential. I'm just scared a team like Pittsburgh could draft this kid in the second or third round, and they try to force him to be a running back that he's not. We saw when they changed DeMarco Murray from one system to the next, it was like the production changed completely. Then he went to Tennessee, and his production went right back up. So we all know running back is a very reliant position, so I hope they don't throw him out of position. But I think he's a pretty good running back, and we all know he had that 300 or 400 yard game this year with like 8 touchdowns. So I mean, even though like I said the competition, but I don't care who the heck you playing. It ain't easy even in Little League to score that many touchdowns. Yeah. So that just clearly this guy has some big play potential.
Oh yeah, most definitely. This guy really does, and to be honest, he could be higher on our list if not for the weaknesses that everybody has to level competition. Because I think this guy could be really a sneaker if put on the right team. And guys like with Kyle Shanahan, especially what the Jets are trying to bolster their running back committee, they could put a guy in Jared Patterson in there, and it could be a surprise a surprise pick in the draft. So
Yeah, I look at. Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh no! I was going to do it to the next one, but I mean, if you have something else to say about Jared Patterson, you could.
I was just gonna say, you mentioned the weaknesses, and he, 5'9" guy. You would expect him to be a little bit faster than what he is, but those are some of the weaknesses that may prevent him from being like a first or second round, one of the higher draft pick running backs.
Yeah, I see him late round. Fourth, fifth, sixth anyway. So.
Yeah, I think he's like fourth projected, right? That's a steal. So
it is.
That's a steal. But you go ahead, Malcolm. You go ahead.
For our fourth one, it will be Michael Carter out of UNC. We're looking at this guy. He's a very shifty guy. To be honest, I understand that what he can do what he can do as rushing wise, but we have to actually look at him receiving wise. This guy is a very natural receiver out the backfield. He is, he uses lateral quickness to separate us from defenders. This guy could be a third down running back. I feel like that's what his potential is going to be. He reminds me somewhat a little bit of a Tariq Cohen, based on like they're extremely agile and stuff like that as a runners, but very like elusive runners. So that's somebody that that gives me a good comparison of what a guy like Michael Carter can be. He's not a guy that you're going to run down, keep on running, because he's not that type of guy. And we've seen that with Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. They were both a crazy duo in college. And the fact that they was able to, Javonte Williams was able to do one thing and Michael Carter was able to, do the receiving and all the other stuff. It's like, it was very good for UNC. But one thing we have to understand about Michael Carter is he is a good pass blocker. And I think that's something that we got to understand. That's a little like an unknown that a lot of people don't even think about and Michael Carter. But to be honest, Michael Carter is a third down. He's a third down running back to me as his potential, but he gives me a guy in Tariq Cohen.
Yeah, I think Michael Carter's pretty good. He kind of reminds me like how like when like Blunt and Danny Woodhead were with New England, like they got Javonte, big guy. Even though Javonte can fly better than Blunt, but it was like power, and then you got the little guy like the Darren Sproles, Danny Woodhead mold of player. The new age Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is probably the best, like we could say third down type running back. Him and like Kamar in that mode. I think he's really good. You say he's shifty, but he got a little pinball in him too. I mean, he got a little goal line work. They didn't use Javonte 100% on the goal line, so he can run a little bit on the goal line. I think he shouldn't be a feature back, but at the same time, if you pair him with another running back that's kind of bigger but not as good of a catcher like a Fournette, like him and Fournette would be a great duo as a running back.
Yeah. Michael Carter, I mean, he averaged 8 yards per carry. Crazy. I mean, that's crazy. And I think you guys talked about his potential, not just as a runner like of the football, but pass catching and pass protection, like some of those strengths. As Malcolm, as you already stated, North Carolina, they depended heavily on those backs, and it was a part of their success this year. So I'm looking at a guy like Michael Carter, where great pass catcher. I think his ceiling may be a little bit of an Austin Eckler, as Ron mentioned. I think if this guy, whoever drafts him, whoever's lucky enough to draft him, crazy explosiveness, and I think you're gonna see him utilized in other positions other than running back, receiver, kick return. He did a lot of kick and punt returning for UNC. So I think you're gonna see him utilized in more than one way if the right coach and the right offensive mind gets to him.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. But to be honest, sometimes when I look at him, I know he has a small frame, and a lot of questions towards like, is his body going to be able to handle the rigors of being that type of cow? So I think as best he is a feature type running back who is really on third down and passing downs because his ability as a receiver in the backfield. I think that they will use him more like you said, Darren Sproles and Austin Eckler in those type of roles. Yeah. He will be put as a receiver sometimes because he does have a small frame and he can be used in different ways, especially with his lateral quickness.
Yeah, my last thing, I think his floor is Nyheim Hines with the Colts, the way he used with Jonathan Taylor. That's his floor. But like you said, his ceiling is probably Eckler, or Sproles was like, the GOAT at that. third down running back role, him and all those guys. So that's probably his ceiling. But his floor, I think, is like a Hines, which was not bad. Can find a role in the NFL, especially with we're a passing league right now. So he's going to be able to find some type of role.
Yes.
You can go ahead, Malc. We can move on.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So number 3, we're going Javonte Williams from UNC. Now we understand what Javonte Williams. This is Ron's guy right here. He is a bowling ball in the open field. He weighs 5'10", 225, just big.
It's crazy.
All compact and big. Another thing is he had 19 touchdowns. He has this big play scoring ability, which is very, very productive, and especially going to be productive in the NFL. He has good vision. His receiving ability, it wasn't used as much because you had a guy like Michael Carter, but you could see that, he could have some resemblance of receiving ability if, the coordinator for the NFL team or the coordinator that he goes to are able to, put him in those positions. One thing I have to say is, his speed, his 4.52 is decent, it's so, but for his size, you can understand. Another thing I gotta understand is there's one thing that I have to actually do. There's a couple games, especially Notre Dame, when you looked at a Notre Dame game, he did not play good in that game at all. And it was times you just like, what the world is going on? You know what I'm saying? And then another thing is with Javonte is his pass blocking. And I think that important for him to be such a, he could be a bell cow type of running back. You have to be better in pass blocking. And I think that's one thing that separates, with Michael Carter, he did a better job at being a pass blocker, being smaller than a guy like Javonte Williams. That's a, it's not as big as a red flag, but it's a red flag early in his career where he has to understand the different blocking schemes, stuff like that, and be able to learn how to block, because that could be crucial to the offense. And he could be where he could be and that can put him to being from a everyday bell cow to a guy, you might use him in short run situations or especially in the big play situation. So that's one thing I have to look at Javonte Williams. And, sometimes when I look at his tape, at first, I can understand why everybody's happy about him, but there's some concerns and some, weaknesses that you have to look at Javonte Williams, which it seems small now, but when you get into NFL, those small things will really, really seep up to you. So, yeah.
You can go ahead, Zay.
Well, dang, you're gonna put the guy down. But no, I agree. I agree with some of those weaknesses, and when just the college athlete in general, I really do pay attention to their performances versus the upper echelon. And he did not play well versus Notre Dame, so that is a red flag. Now I think as far as we already mentioned his physicality and how he's such a physical runner, in between the tackles, and he's, as far as his elusiveness and his speed, it's okay. Maybe it got overshadowed a bit because he was playing alongside a guy like Michael Carter, but I think this guy's ceiling, it can be possibly Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, who had some phenomenal years, past couple years in Green Bay. I see a lot of similarities with Williams, a really good second and third level runner. So if he's able to get past the first level, I think at second level where you got those linebackers and those safeties, and we all know the linebackers today, the safeties today are getting a bit smaller and more quicker. So I think the physicality part, he can manhandle and have his way at the second and third level if he's able to get enough carries and find his right spot in the NFL.
Yeah, you hit it based on the head. Right now, I think he's only really a first and second down back. He hasn't proven he could be a third down back yet. It's really just that simple right now. Now, can he turn to a third down back? Probably. I think his absolute best fit, this is what Pittsburgh needs right here. Now, Pittsburgh, I know we've seen a lot of running back ones in the first round. You get this guy in the late second round, and he's going to fit the system the first day he steps in training camp. This guy ran for 45.9% of his carries, either for a touchdown or a first down. So this guy is literally a big play waiting to happen. His 40 time definitely a little slow for running back. 4.5 is definitely not the best. Ezekiel Elliott ran close to that, so we can see that sometimes. So eventually, that's when he's going to have a big drop off. But for first contract, it's a running back. First 4 years, he should be pretty good. So, and I also think his value is pretty high based on where he's being projected, like late second, early third. Based on that value, that's really why I like him. I would draft. This is not a first round running back to me. I think he's really good, but his value is higher than a lot of those other running backs where they're being taken, if that makes sense.
But it sounds like we're going to get to number 2. So, number 2, we have Travis Etienne from Clemson. This guy is a home run hitter, and he's very fast, and he has a very quick step. Another thing that you like about him is the receiving skills. He's very good out the backfield, and he's an improved route runner from last year, and that he's very instinctive runner. One thing that I have problems with Travis Etienne, or I can keep on saying that. But how I can't put out number 1. He's just have a couple things that he needs to improve. Number 1 is fumbling issues. That was a big problem that he's been having, in his 2 years. And another thing is, protection, pass protection. I think that if he wants to be a very, valuable running back, he has to improve the pass protection and yards at the contact. If you're not really, doing well with yards at the contact in college, in the NFL, you're playing against bigger boys. And that's going to be a big problem. But I mean, that's the only thing I have for for Travis. But one thing I can say about Travis is he can be a very dynamic offensive weapon in the backfield if given the right coordinator, if given the right situation. This guy does have a lot of potential to be a very good running back.
Yeah, I don't really have him not fitting in a scheme.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what scheme this guy can't play in. Like I think he can play in any scheme. All other backs, we kind of like pick and choose. I think he can play any scheme in 2021 in the NFL. He actually was my running back 1 last year, so as well as this year. So I'm surprised you have me number 2 because again, he was my running back 1 last year. I don't know why he came back to school. Have absolutely no idea because again, he would have been probably a first or second round pick last year. But like you said, I mean, the fumbling issues, the pass blocking is okay. It's not like elite pass blocking, but he's pretty good. They throw the ball a lot. He's probably the most explosive runner in the draft. Don't know where he's gonna run the 40, but I can tell you on tape and game speed, he was the most explosive running back I saw in college football last year. He was averaging 4.5 yards after contact. So I mean, in the NFL, 4.5 yards is good before contact. So this guy was averaging it after. So I mean, Clemson's offensive line is pretty good, but they weren't the best O-line in the country. They weren't Notre Dame. So, they were pretty good. So, he had pretty good blocking. But I don't know, this guy is just a stud to me. Even though I know the other guy is a stud as well, this is just, this is the chocolate muffin to the blueberry muffin. You know what I'm saying? Who would you rather want? What do you rather eat, the chocolate or the blueberry? But you can go ahead and say.
So Ron, you say one of the most explosive. I mean, I think he is the most explosive running back in all of college football last year. So with Travis Etienne, he has all type of ACC and Clemson records, and for a lot of the time last year, he was Trevor Lawrence's safety blanket. I mean, really, he missed a couple games, but he was the safety blanket. No Justin Ross for Clemson last year, so he really stepped up in various areas. My NFL comp, I try to come up with an NFL comp, but I see some Lamar Miller a little bit. The pass catching, really explosive. I do worry about his in between the tackles, as far as like his running in between the tackles. I think that could be a problem. But this guy, I mean, like you said, it's a passing league. So if the system he goes to, or if he goes to a team with a quarterback, or that's really pass heavy, and they use him in the pass catching game a lot more, then they, instead of 15 carries to 20 carries, maybe he's seeing 12 carries and 3 catches or something like that. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that raise his ceiling a little bit higher. But I mean, it's not. He has everything you want in a second or in a first or second round running back. Probably an early second guy, because the first guy that I'm assuming that's number 1 is probably going to be in the first round. So I like Travis Etienne. It's not much to not like. I do worry cautiously about the in between the tackles running.
Most definitely.
I have him as my comp. I've got to say the comp. I definitely have him as Alvin Kamara reincarnated. I think that's what we're in the NFL. But And when you say 12 carries, about 5 catches, this is Alvin Kamara reincarnated. Good luck to the league.
I mean, he can be a lot of potential. He can be a very dynamic offensive weapon, and I do agree with that. But my number one pick for the Malc top 5 running back list is what I've been telling Ron about. I really appreciate this guy and the stuff that he has done. Is Najee Harris from Alabama. Now, this boy, 6'1", 230 and 230 pounds. Now, we talked about this last show. I talked about this last show about let's show a comparison towards a guy as in Derrick Henry, who was 6'4", about 235. Just imagine how big this guy Najee Harris is. He's a very powerful runner with good speed, and he has excellent vision. You see what he does in the open field. He's going to make somebody miss. He's going to hurdle them, and then he's going to go into the touchdown. Like, what else could he do? Number one, another thing that you got to see, he's a good receiver out in the backfield. I mean, we talk about all these things about the running backs and what we need the value is for a first round. You have to be complete. You can't just be a very good runner, because we've seen what we have seen, especially, since Ron's a Cowboys fan. He's seen what he's seen in Ezekiel. He's done with that. He's done seeing that. But you have a guy, Najee Harris, who's one, he's a very good runner. Number two, he's very good in the backfield. Number three, what I've been talking about all these prospects is pass protection, which he is very good at too.
Easily.
And that's one thing that we have to understand too. And number four, he gets the job done. He could be an every down back. He has the potential to be one of the better running backs in this draft. He is the best running back in this draft, according to me. And I think that he has, he can fulfill his potential for a guy like Travis can. Because I think that he's, he can immediately come into the game and be able to produce. That's what I think about a guy in Najee Harris. And that's why he's my number one running back, a top 5 running back list.
You go ahead, Zay.
Yeah, I agree. No complaints here. And people, Alabama was so explosive last year, and it's so funny because Alabama, like when Saban first got there, they were a power running football team, play good defense, hold opponents under 20 points. Now they let it fly. And everybody knows about Mac Jones, Devontae Smith. They had great numbers, but this guy Najee Harris had over 1,400 rushing yards and 30 touchdowns, 30 total touchdowns. He was a touchdown machine. Just didn't get he got talked about a little bit here and there, but Devontae Smith really took over. But this guy, big back, and we know he's physical. He's a great runner, but let's talk about his catch radius. This guy's catch radius is amazing. He made some great catches, like in traffic, circus type catches. I just love to see a complete back, especially in today's game, because let's be honest, that's what's ultimately going to get him paid if he lives up to his first contract. And it's just he's a can't miss type of guy, and I think Malcolm hit it right on the nose. You can put him in any system and plug him in and play, and he's going to be a good 3-down back. I think this is a great. I don't know who could use a guy like this. Not off the top of my mind, but this is a great player in the first round to get. Late first round, mid first round, great guy to get.
Yeah, I think he's a really good player. He's my number 2 running back. That's a shot on the guy, but he's just my number 2 running back. Next week, I don't have the consensus number 1 receiver as my number 1 receiver either. So, but I think he's really good. Like you say, he's huge. I don't like the Derrick Henry comp because he's not Derrick Henry. Like, that's just not a good comp to me. I don't like him as that because he looks big, but he's not as physical as he looks. He's physical, but he's not like Williams is more physical at a smaller size than Najee Harris. And I don't think it's a hot take.
I think misconstrue what I said. I'm not talking about he's compared to him. I'm talking about size.
Oh, okay. So we're just talking about height and weight. Okay, well, I just want to let everybody know he's not as physical as he looks on paper. Not that he's not physical, but he's just overall, like him and Etienne, he's not that much more physical than Etienne. Even though Etienne's about 20 pounds lighter, there's not a big physicality gap. But he looks the part more, I can say that. But again, like you say, he's probably going in the first round. I'm not gonna like it, but it's probably gonna happen. I really think he's really a top of the second round guy. I think that's what his absolute value will be completely unlocked. Because Jacksonville, if he falls Jacksonville in the second round, come on. Like, that's the fit right there. But then next, you fall into Pittsburgh, or who else is, I don't know, somebody else late in the first round. It's gonna be like, they're gonna force him to be good immediately. So that's just my last thing.
And I think that Najee Harris could be good immediately. I think you could put him on the field day one and he's going to produce. I mean, another thing is that you're right. He did shy away from contact before, but have you seen this year? Like, he's been going to contact. He's been going through contact. Like last year, you seen last year's tape and this year's tape, you see two different tapes of two guys. You see one who was trying to run away from contact, run away from all the other stuff. But you see a guy this year who's able to go through contact, who was inviting contact. And I think that I understand what you're saying that, but you have to understand that if you continue to look at this tape and see what a Najee has improved on, especially throughout his whole entire game, you see an improved runner who's able to go down your throat and be able to run away from you. It's two ways. You never know.
Yeah, I'm really interested for time. I'm not gonna lie.
Ron, what's the difference between the 32nd pick and the 34th pick? He's gonna be like a mid to late first rounder. I know you don't like to see these.
Like Pittsburgh's gonna reach. Like, Pittsburgh needs a tackle. Like, they don't need this kid. Like, they can get somebody. Like, they need a tackle. It's not this kid's gonna change. He's not gonna change anything for you, Pittsburgh. Like, this is not gonna save Ben. I want to out. It's not what's gonna save Ben's arm. That's my last thing. It's not.
Hey, well, I mean, we'll see. But you have a guy like Najee and Harris, and if I'm the Steelers and I need a running back, especially with James Conner gone, I need somebody to do what he got to do. I think Najee Harris is the one because he gives me instant production day one.
All right. Well, you all go follow us on social medias at Malc and Ron Show. This is gonna be dropping on YouTube at M&R Show. Make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey, y'all, thanks for the continued support. We appreciate y'all. Continue following on our social media sites. And we have a video out for y'all soon, so stay tuned. See y'all.
All right.